goes like ooh, yeah, yeah. And it goes like ooh, yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. And it goes like ooh, yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me we're through. Yeah, but I can't turn it off 'cause it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. And it goes like
Sanmonani, Dumelang Haryashe, and welcome to another phenomenal session of Outfluence Human Rights Festival 2023. Today, once again, I'm super excited. We're talking hashtag World Builders Reimagining the World. And today we have phenomenal people on the panel. Our first person is Inka Kendzia. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Yay.
And she is not alone. We have Clare Lewis. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm not going to waste any time. We're just going to jump straight into it. And I'm just going to ask both of you to please introduce yourself and tell us, what do you do?
Claire, may I let you go first, please?
Hi, I'm Clare Louis. I am now the owner of Katani Made Animation Studio. We are a 3D animation studio based in Durban. And a little bit about myself, I traveled for 18 years, came back home, did a master's at Wits University, or completed it for 3D animation and visual effects. Worked for 3 years in Johannesburg, learning the business of how, South Africa and funding and all that works. And then I came back home, and that was in 2017, 2018. We started the 3D animation studio, and now we're based at the KZN Film Commission in Durban. And we are working on an animated TV series for the SABC called Nittyville. We have 20, now we got 24 animators, and we do a lot of training. And yeah, just to get our studio going. Travel a lot, but I'm basically the producer, and I have a team under me that, well, anyway, takes care of the studio. That's it.
Sure. That's so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing, Claire. Inka, please go for it.
Yeah, so I am a visual artist. I use storytelling across various mediums. I come from film editing, motion design world. I do live visuals, VJ. I do work with projection mapping. I also have traveled a bit, but now more traveling more with work. Yeah, I just love everything that South Africa does. I'm so excited to see all the things that you're doing, Claire, and just everything that's coming out. So yeah, really, really excited to be a part of this as well. Thanks for inviting me, because I feel it's an exciting world. There's a lot happening in VR. I use a lot of new mediums as well to tell stories. And I just think the growth is so dramatic, I think, at the moment, and really exciting. And there's so many fascinating artists that are using everything that we do and all the tools we do in animation and in every way to express their feelings and their worlds and get them out there. So it's amazing. Thank you.
Sure. That's so exciting. Inka, I love that you referred to yourself as a storyteller. That's what you first said. If I can just ask, how did your journey of visual storytelling begin?
I guess I came to just generally, there was a lot of art in my family, and my parents and everyone around me, I think, are always really supportive of just, drawing and painting. So I thought in the beginning I would do something with art and paintings as a medium. And then kind of that, you get told you must earn a living and all that, which one must do. And art is, I think especially art is seen as such a different job or career choice, which I think hopefully now it's changing. I mean, I think there should really be more people that see art as a very valid career choice, because there's so many ways of expressing. But yes, I digress. I'm sorry. So mine started with that and just painting and wishing to be doing that. But then I got into graphic design, and from that into moving storytelling in a sense through film editing, first in Namibia, where I grew up, and then actually in Cape Town, where I now live. And through that, I taught myself After Effects way in the day when it was still, I don't know, After Effects 3 or something like that. And YouTube did not exist as a way of learning. So it was all very much trial and error, or seeing something and just really trying to learn, which I think is also great, because in some way it's quite experimental then what you do or what one does generally, because I think, in art generally, or just overall, one can learn so much by trying to copy something initially, but then through that find your own way. So I'm not saying we should copy each other's work, but I think every work flows into something else. We're all influenced by so much of what is around us. and then we developed from then onwards. And yeah, that's kind of how it then just flowed on. As technology grew and became something different and bigger, I could use those tools to integrate with what I'm doing and how to tell things. This sounds weird. I'm going to stop talking now.
No, that's so
and to talk with folks.
Sure, that's so interesting. And what about you, Claire? How did your journey of being a visual storyteller begin?
I used to work on a cruise ship, and I think one of the things was I was always drawing. I was always drawing from a very young age. But of course, my parents didn't understand this as a career choice. So then we had to be, I don't know, something academic, a doctor or a nurse or, one of the normal careers. So when I told I wanted to do animation, actually it was graphic design. Because when I was studying, I didn't even know that graphic design was an animation. There's no information about it. And so I went to go study graphic design before I realized that actually, no, this isn't exactly what I wanted. And through a series of events that happened, I ended up going to travel overseas and I lived there. And I traveled for like 18 years. But in that time, I saw what animation was. One day I just saw it and I thought, that's it. But it encompassed everything. It wasn't just the drawing. It was being able to tell the stories. But we were constantly being told that African stories it's not going to sell. If you have an African voice or you have thing, it just wasn't going to sell. And I'm doing what I'm calling the Black Panther effect because we would go to animation festivals. I eventually did my animation at Wits University, and then we were trying to come up with stories with African characters as a lead, and it just no one was interested, or it was really difficult to guess that going. Yeah, I'd say in South Africa it was until Triggerfish came out with those movies, Adventures in Zambezia and Kumba, that people started looking at us a little bit differently, like, okay, maybe there's something here. But then I was based in Joburg. And in Johannesburg, there was this whole movement. Everything seemed to be coming together at once, but it was really, I would say, Black Panther was one of the things that changed people's perceptions. And then suddenly the stories we were talking about became known, but also the software. The software helped us. Massive, massive leaps in software. And now we use open source software because the licenses are crazy. So we use a software called Blender. So it just seemed like this confluence of all these different factors that had come together to create the whole storytelling that we want to tell. And now the world looks like the world's ready to tell it. I mean, they're ready to listen because there's a lot of focus. South Africa was a country of focus now. In Stuttgart, we have just come back from in Germany. And it was about 20 of us who went there, but at the same time, a group of animators went to, I can only talk in the animation industry, right? I don't know about the others.
Sure.
But there's a group of animators who went to to LA at the same time because of the African Summit. Imagine they have a whole summit just on Afro animation now. It's very new, but it just shows you that we are being taken seriously by Netflix, by Amazon, who have all moved to South Africa, by the way, and set up offices because the content, you can see it, some of it Blood and Water and these different shows that have been shown. But my journey really was just one of those voices in between all these others who are all making an impact now. I'm here in Durban, and as far as I know, we're the largest 3D animation studio in Durban. Before, the stories I was making, they would be very aimed at a European market. But I've noticed definitely during COVID it happened where we started thinking, why? We're just going to look like everybody else and just, like you said, Inka, copy everyone else. And we don't want that. So we started throwing in these African designs, but not knocking people over the head with it, just introducing it into the work. So it's not so foreign. So when we tell our stories, they local, to go global.
That's so good. I love that so much. Claire, you mentioned Black Panther, and hopefully I don't get in trouble for this. But I'm just I'm just curious. What are your thoughts on international storytelling of South African stories? Do you think internationals are able to fully tell South African stories visually, that is, or do you think as South Africans we are able to tell our stories better in the visual element?
Look, my whole thing is, like I said before, no, we won't. And I can fully understand why a producer would get Idris Elba to come down to play Nelson Mandela. I understand Leonardo DiCaprio coming to play an Afrikaner, or I was really surprised when I saw Matt Damon play Francois Pienaar. Thinking, what? I was, but I understand what the producers were going through. They want their money back. They want recoup, and the studios, unfortunately, were international, and they would almost dictate. But yin and yang. The tide is turning. The tide has turned, actually, completely. And I've seen it in the past 2 years. So I would say up until before COVID, not really, even though people were screaming and shouting and on all these different Cliff Central and all these TV shows saying yes. I honestly believe no. As a producer, I would want to have those voices. But now I think that the world is ready. They're ready for us, but we're ready for it. We're ready for it now. With the expertise that we've been honing all these years. I would say to a certain extent, say before it was like a 70% international, 30% local. But now I think you can do 70% local, 30% international. You still need those international people for the money.
Sure. I think Claire broke a bit.
There we go. Gotcha.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Claire. And then Inka, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely resonate with that. I think that's so true, and I think it's a great thing to look at something not as a either or now, but to really go, well, let's take what is good from that, but allow the authenticity to speak and to people really tell these stories and have the international support to tell them, versus the no, we'll do this for you because we know better kind of a thing, or whatever the attitude was. I'm not saying that that's what it was, but I think that's also where animation is so great now, because it frees us from that and it allows that style to be authentic as well. When you drawing, when you're animating, it's not completely linked to the big names and the actors. You can have that in the background and you can have the voices of that, but it just really allows to be a bit freer from that. But and it's great. It really, definitely, it has changed. I mean, there's artists like Petit Noir with Rara Nepa, that like Afro futurism, all these terms that are part of everything. Noir wave. I mean, everything that's there is really loudly speaking to how strong things are. And I mean, I think people like Beyonce, if I may say it, like there's a lot of looking at and showing and incorporating into her show, like with Moonchild, with musicians and artists. I know that's a different kind of platform, but I think there's so much where it's being looked at, but also really now allowing people here to speak and have their own stories told their own way is what's happening and important.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing. So I'm just going to touch on those points. What would you say then compels you personally to be a visual storyteller?
Me, exactly that, exactly being able to collaborate with people, with anyone, from anywhere, to go, let's speak of the stories that are within us, that are speaking to our shared humanity, that are really allowing us to share also mythologies that are, there's such a rich culture of storytelling in especially in South Africa, and there's so many characters in those worlds to tell them. So that's, for me, is what's so inspiring. And whether that's working with someone like Purity Mkhize, where it's told within a queer setting, or and there's that connection with nature and all things that she's exploring, that I'm working on with a project with her, where I think that's just it's lovely to allow anything to come forth that draws from the past, but just really speaking of the now.
Sure, I love that. I love that so much. Thank you. And Claire, what compels you to be a visual storyteller?
Honestly, like for many people, it was just not being able to identify. I know it sounds so cliche now because everyone says it, but it's completely the truth.
Mm.
Not being able to identify with the animations that we are seeing on TV. And I think with our preschool show that we're doing now, one of the main reasons, I mean, everything about it is set in Durban. The pools, park,
Oh,
there's this park called Mitchell Park where we just come from now, where all the kids
yeah.
go and they just lose their minds when they're there. And then taking that and then stylizing it. And the pools are the pools from our pools on the beachfront. And taking things that I see all the time and putting them into a setting, but still making it appeal to, because of my traveling, I know that this would most likely appeal to this market, that market, and combining all of those aesthetics and putting it together. But in terms of um, the stories are based on things that I've seen all the time. But when I was growing up, I did not see those kind of stories. It was usually the zany stuff, or it was the fantastical, like, ooh, Star Wars.
Yeah.
And those kind of things really appealed to me, but they did. Um, so I think I went off the topic just a little bit. The thing that propels me is like in one of our animations, the lead character is based on my nephew. He's from here, same accent, everything, but he's one in a group of kids. So yeah, that thing about wanting to see yourself representation, strong female, or a female without her being a cocky female, and just speaking to people since I've got back from when I was traveling, it made me a lot more. I was listening a lot to what people were saying, and then trying to put those into the kind of stories that we're delivering in our series.
Sure. Representation is so important. And I think in any form of storytelling, it's definitely the core because everyone is saying, I want to be represented, I want to be represented. Um, and I just want to ask, do you think that it's important for South African stories to now be told visually?
Inka, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think absolutely, because I think again, it's reaching and inspiring everyone across all ages needs to be, I think, across any medium be done, and I think it's really it's beautiful to be able to have the oral tradition now become part of what we're doing with films, with the kind of visual storytelling, and just be able to do and have platforms that show it, something like Sunshine Cinema where they have community screenings. I think that's a really, really powerful tool to have people come together to hear stories, to see them, to also really maybe, have workshops of how you can do something with stop motion with a phone or something where you just really showing everyone that everything is there in your hands to tell, or just draw anything. I think that's what's allowing everyone to really think of themselves as an artist that is allowed to tell their own story, that is authentically represented, then can find and see themselves in those stories, is what's absolutely essential. And I think, yes, visual storytelling, yay.
Sure, that's so good. Claire, do you want to add on to that or you're good?
No, can you just say the question again? Sorry.
So I was just asking, why is it important to see South African stories being told visually?
It's okay. Living here in Durban, I mean, right now you can hear. Sorry, I'm sure
Yeah,
you can hear.
it's lovely.
Yeah, it's the
Durban
mosque.
it is.
And then right next door to that is Indian temple. And on the other side of it, there's the Shembe church, who just finished right now. And I'm in the middle of all of this. And just that alone, we have to somehow bring it to the world that South African is so diverse.
Mm.
I think we are so lucky. We are
Yes.
so lucky we can draw from all these inspirations. It's not cultural appropriation, it's our reality. And this is what we're going to tell to everybody. So I do believe that it's really, really important that you start showing your different part just to show how diverse we are as a nation.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite amazing. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Definitely, definitely. So I do see in our Facebook there we have Ntuli Xolani saying greetings, Outfluence. Hi, hi. Can I just advise everyone that's watching live, please feel free to pop in your questions, just so that we can ask Inka and Claire anything you'd like to know about visual storytelling. You're more than welcome to do so. Or if you'd like to know more about the work that they do, please feel free to pop in a message there, and they'll be more than happy to answer your question. With that being said, I'm gonna ask us to play a quick video, a 2-minute video by Sanele Qwabe, and we are just going to have a discussion around that.
Sanele Qwabe. I am a filmmaker from South Africa, KZN. As a creative, it's important to always know the tools around you. Even if you're not going to use the tools, it's important to know what's out there, because you may never know what's for you. For example, with the revolution of like AI and the possibilities of what it can be done. So as a filmmaker, I use, for example, ChatGPT to help me formulate my scripts. So I think that's like a perfect example of moving in the digital space, and making sure your art sustains and you keeping up with the pace of how things are in this world. And it doesn't really mean like you need to use these tools or anything. Like it's important for you as a creator to always be aware of what's going on, of what's happening, so that you are comfortable enough to do your own thing, because I think as a creative, it's very important for you to be present and research and be informed of the digital space, because that's where everything is moving towards, and that's basically every audience is in. A perfect example was the lockdown, where the only form of entertainment was not stadiums. It was your cell phone screen, your computer screen. Everything was so digital. So yeah, with the whole digital space, I really do feel as a creative you need to learn how to learn.
Sure. I'm so sorry that it cut out like that. So Inka, I just have a question. So I know that your art explores body as a site of memory. How how are you able to sustain your art?
As in financially, or the
Just all around. How are you able to sustain it?
So when you're speaking of the body as a site of memory, I explore that as a topic, especially actually with a film that we are busy in the scriptwriting phase with Gregory Mukoma, who really has his body. He comes from his body is his museum, and there is a story that we're basing on one of his plays. So that's very much there in the sense of I can draw from his work and his story and his lived experience, and we weaving that into another story. So really using what is again what is present to create a narrative with, and I think there's just various ways of being able to explore that. So if I'm now briefly referring to the clip into that we just saw that talks about new media, I think yes, I mean especially knowing AI and exploring different mediums to learn from, and if one wants to do some animation or some artwork creation that comes from AI created art, I think that's really great. And there's so that way you can reach across a lot of mediums and into various groups and things. So yeah, would love to hear the thoughts. I mean, I think it's great to integrate tools. I think it is good to be aware of the fact that also there is that, the talk about copyright, that artists are feeling that their artworks were mined. I think that's also a very valid place, and I do feel those voices need to be heard and need to be respected, because how you draw and how you develop your style is something that is over time. And I'm sure, Claire, you have that as well. I mean, everything that is developed, it takes so much time to build up that internal, data bank even as well, just like what, the AI is doing. So I think sustainable is, for me personally as well, something, because I go across a lot of mediums, because I work in some way in documentaries and the commercial space, as well as, in an art space, as well as in theatre, with Koleka Putuma, for example, and yes, with Gregory. So I'm trying to make it sustainable by just being in a lot of places and work with a lot of, mediums, basically. But
Sure.
I love what Claire does with, facilitating the training that is happening within her studio and focusing on that. And I think that's amazing. It's really, thank you for doing that.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing, Inka. Before I just jump in and ask Claire the same question, may I just ask, Inka, how are you able to incorporate visual storytelling in theatre? I did hear you mention
Collect
Kutuma as well as Gregory. I'm just interested in how you make that a possibility.
So about a year and a bit ago, Koleka developed one of her shows, supported by the Wiener Festwochen, and she approached me for bringing in video into the show. And initially, it was developing, some kind of a video that would just run alongside what she was doing, because she was really coming from a place as well of, researching Brenda Fassi and just storytellers, musicians, records, ways of how everyone is being viewed as part of her research for this specific theatre. And then it just organically developed into a process where we decided definitely the best way to be would be for the show to remain live, for me to travel with her, to, after developing the stage design together with her, to really incorporate projection, and also a way of having a camera become part of it, not as the observed, but her being able to have control of a webcam and go, well, this is me and my image, because we're in this kind of selfie world and self-reflection, but how much control do we take of that, and how was that control taken away before? So there's a lot of dialogue within that, and we really try to make that become part of the show, and then be able to present that to audiences with her poetry. So in that specific space, I play live according to the timing that she's got in her poetry and in the spaces, but it's obviously a rehearsed show that runs with things that we've developed over quite a bit of time and workshopping.
Sure, that's so good and so interesting. Thank you for that, Claire. So just to go back to the question that Yusra asked on our Facebook, who happens to be our curator for the Artfluence Human Rights Festival. So thank you for that question, Yusra. Hello, Yusra here is saying, would love to hear Claire and Inka's thoughts on ChatGPT and AI. So what are your thoughts there, Claire?
Hi, Yusra. Thank you for the question. Okay, in our studio, about a month and a half ago, we realized how impactful the AI is going to be, especially because we're a digital medium. Everything that we do is digital, and I think that's where AI is having the biggest impact, of course. So exactly what Inka referred to, there was AI like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, not just chat, but also GPT-4, and if you're going to pay for it, otherwise Chat GPT. We were starting to use it for applications and for, just to make all our application our life easier, because we were stunned at how effective it was. And then we're very, like at the moment, right now, in this week, We've been having meetings, and so once a week for about an hour, hour and a half, we close the studio, and every animator gets on and they just start researching, because remember, in 1 week, GPT-4 came out, then Microsoft came out with theirs, then Google came out with theirs, and this race that was all these things that were supposed to only be released at the end of the year came forward to now. So if you are a company that is not researching it or not looking into how you can use it ethically, because that is, I do believe, that's one of the major concerns, ethical use of the AI. It can be so helpful. But if you are going to be stealing, it's going to you're going to get caught out down the line for sure. But it's not for us. What's happening with the AI is that already we can see that it's not going to replace us, because we want to support the director's vision, and we want to support like the ethos, the ethos and the feeling of whatever your show is, or your movie or your graphic novel, because we're using it for storyboarding as well. Yes, and to finish off animations, there's already AI that's been made to do your animations, but you still have to control it. Except before you need 4 animators, now you need 1. So what's happening is job roles are being collapsed. They are not being replaced. They're just collapsing. So you're going to find that studios are much smaller. There's much smaller studios producing more work. I mean, Runway, for example, has taken 2 jobs away completely for visual effects. So there's going to be a re-education for sure. There has to be a complete re-education starting from the schools, because if they're going to ignore it, we're the ones with the problem. It works. It really does work, but you have to be responsible. And we're right at the beginning. We're still at the nascent stages, and it's already, oh, it's already a little bit breathtaking. So I do believe it's going to be an interesting journey, but each one is going to have to, the onus is on you, on how you're going to make use of it.
Sure. And that's honest. Oh, go for it,
No, I
Inka.
was just going to say, I mean, if I may say, that is really also how one generally, though, should be. It shows how one generally behaves in the world. Like, that ethics are so important. Whether you are now using it via AI or just how you run a business that involves real humans and how you treat them. I think that's all the things that are really coming out. And I think, yeah, but it's everything. It's one needs to really always remain aware of that and factor that in and be decent.
Could I just add?
Sure.
Could I just add one small thing? That
Go for it.
when we were at FMX, is the visual effects conference part of Stuttgart, and there was a lot of talk around the AI, because the entire world, everything has been released at the same time around the world. So everyone is wary. There's different attitudes, excitement, wariness, fear, major fear. And I think, honestly, exactly like iterating what Inka had said, and what the little clip about that guy who used it for his script, fantastic, but it can't write the script for you. You must have come up with the idea and shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to help us. I believe it's going to help us.
Sure. That's so good. Reimagining the world. Absolutely. May I just ask, what do you think a reimagined South Africa looks like?
Ooh.
Ooh. Let you think about that. A reimagined South Africa.
I think it's happening for us in animation. It's happening. It's not being reimagined. We're in it, and it's happening. And we're just trying to keep up with each other, because each studio that I'm seeing and the work that's coming out, but it's because of the access to software. The computers are not so expensive anymore. They're cheaper. So our work is mainly computerized, but oh my gosh, the stories these kids are coming up with the stop motion studio on their phones. and the little things that they're doing already, because we go to schools, we're trying to increase the animation footprint in Durban, and then by extension KZN. And it's just amazing how they take to it, and it's really, really exciting. Very different stories, very different. So
Yeah, yeah,
storytelling is, I mean, it's part of our cultures. It really is. And the South African thing, really, I see it comes out there. I'm still learning though. I'm still learning how to take that and to make it into something that could be marketable. So I think the reimagining part, I'm still working on it. But seeing what others are
okay,
doing, I'm so impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really.
good stuff. What about you, Claire? What do you think? I'm sorry,
No,
Inka, my
no
mistake.
worries at all. No, I think that's exactly it. I mean, absolutely resonate there with what Claire's saying, and I think it's so exciting that that's happening across all the board. And I guess I was more thinking of, reimagine South Africa in a, the social context as well. That it would be great to have that support that is really, felt, that government can give to everything that's happening in the arts, and but by extension, obviously, to everyone on a, a survival level, and more importantly, because I think then that is when we can start exploring this more, and feel supported in what can be imagined. I mean, someone like Natalie Paneng is doing incredible stuff. She creates these utopian worlds that are online, and is doing amazing work, and also traveling with that. So it's really King Debs. I mean, there are people that are using 3D, VR, all these beautiful tools to also speak of it, the things we are experiencing, in a lighter way. I think it's important to delve into the problems we're having, but also just to be allowed to have fun, be allowed to tell light stories, just everything, just that, be like children with it, just like what you were saying, Claire, with what kids are doing with stop motion, with all things. I think it's so important in all the ways that we're approaching, that we're reminded of that just childlike being in us, that we can just play with things, that nothing is, and that there is a platform. Once the thing is made, once we've told the story, we'll find it. There's digital things in yes, YouTube and all that, but there's obviously, more importantly, the bigger stories. How do we get them out there? How do we get them onto the markets? And that's a thing for the big producers, like we mentioned at the very beginning. But it's really good that that's happening, and that there is support.
No, for sure, for sure. And I love what you mentioned about having fun and playing. I think in any arts form, it's so important to play and play and play, and not always take yourself seriously, because in the playing, you're able to discover and explore so much. So you also mentioned a point on how do we get our work across. So I'm thinking, so if there's someone watching at home and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so interested in being a visual storyteller, but I don't know how to start. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. How would you just advise them? Like, what do you do, Claire?
Okay. So can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay. We have open days at our studio every few months. Like, we have an open day and people come through, and we let them see whichever people, because a lot of people write to us and they want to come and visit. So my suggestion is, if you've just, say for example, you're in grade 11 or 12, and you know that this is something you want to do, I can only help you with Durban and with KZN. So the KZN Film Commission gives bursaries. Once you know which school you want to go and study film or TV or animation at. So you have to go and do some research on which schools. I know there's AFTA, there's DUT, there's Creative Arts College, there's the digital arts. If you want to study animation, digital arts at the varsity. And from last year, DUT has started animation, like first year animation course, introduction to animation courses. And before there was none of this. So if you'd like to go and study at those, but of course financially it's going to be a burden, then the KZN Film Commission gives bursaries. You need to look on their website. And then in a broader context is the National Film and Video Foundation. So they also give I know they give bursaries as well, but you must have at least got an acceptance of that place where you want to go. If you still don't, or you don't get in, check the websites. The Film Commission, they're doing an amazing job of doing free script writing courses, free, there's a whole 3-year course that you can do through the Film Commission if you get accepted to do film, TV, all those things you'd learn at film school, and they will pay you to do it. So, yeah. When you've completed, or if you've at least done up to 1 or 2 years, we take interns after that with enough skill, because we're finding that a lot of people can't finish the studies. That was financially, it was a burden, or they just couldn't. So we have these internships where we bring them on and we complete their production training, because when you finish school, you're not ready for production. We still have to teach them for almost an entire year and the demands of it. Um, and there's also quite a few courses with the National Film and Video Foundation, but you have to look at their websites. You have to do some homework on your own. And a lot of these courses, I was so surprised how many of them there wasn't a charge for it, but you had to be serious about it. They have drone. You can learn how to do drone technology. They don't do anything like your stuff though, Kenya. Sorry, Inka. Everything is geared towards film, TV, and being able to do a script writing or script writing courses so that you can be employed at the end as a storyteller, as a filmmaker. There's documentary filmmaking courses and that, but again, you have to look for it. Does that answer your
Sure.
question, Nomthandazo?
It does, and I hope it also answers the question for anyone at home. Inka, would you just love to answer to that
Yeah,
as
and I
well?
mean, thank you, Claire, for all that information. And yeah, the NFEF especially is really doing lots with supporting films and that kind of storytelling. And yes, in my kind of medium, there is very little, because and that's also, I guess, where I can only really speak from being completely self-taught in everything that I'm doing. That I have people come up to me at gigs that, want to learn about VJing. I'm totally there for it. Come up to me anytime when you see me play. But I do think it's that same thing. What I also tell people when they come to me is going, this is the software I use. It's VDMX. It's Mac based when I work with live visuals. I think open source in every way is a great way to go. This is the software itself is also built with that mentality, but obviously it does cost. But the founder is amazing. You can write to him and go, I need a discount. And also the software is in such a way made that you can work with it, and it doesn't watermark anything. So it allows you to just play and work with it. So that's on the live visual side. But also there, it's a tough kind of career choice, because, it's so dependent on events and what's happening. But it works alongside what I do with motion design. And it also helps because some of the generative stuff and the generative effects that I'm creating with, it's great that it opens it up. So that's what I would advise anyone to do. I think I was mentioning before, self-taught from before the internet. Now there's so many things out there. Go, look at a YouTube video, research what it is that makes you feel connected to the stories you want to tell, or believe in what you want to say, and find someone that's doing that's telling you how to do it, and then then figure it out and learn. And I think there are a lot of things that are possible with minimal tools, because I think it's also that is what South Africa has taught us in some way, versus working in another country, is we do so much and we're so multi-skilled because we have to be, because you just have to figure things out across many softwares and hardwares and all things. And I think you can find a way. And then there's people that are giving tips on content creator and how to possibly earn an income as a content creator. I mean, it's a big, wide, scary world at times. I think you can get really lucky by finding something that's really simple and really effective and beautiful. And or I think it's also a thing of maybe knowing, is it a thing you want to be doing? Do you want to just create something yourself, or do you want to work with a team? And then it's really great with the everything that's Claire's mentioned is figure out where you want to fit in. And it's so great to have a supportive family around you, a team that teaches you to learn those very very specific production pipelines. They're super important if you see yourself as somebody that wants to do a part of something and contribute to within a much larger project. But I think it's just starting is what helps figuring out what you want to become and going for it.
So, Nomthandazo, could I just add to that quickly?
Go for it, Claire.
Yes, I did not mention the University of YouTube. Oh my gosh.
The most important institution.
Wow, I am genuinely surprised in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, how many, especially with software that is, okay, for in my field, for 3D animation, because there's 2D animation as well, right? But in both, there's really, really, really good open source. There's a difference between free and open source. Free usually means it's the software, but some of the features are not available. You can use it, but some of the features aren't available. Open source means it's completely free for you to use all the time, anywhere and how you want. And you don't have to pay a license ever. And that's the difference. So open source stuff like we use called Blender. If you want to go into 2D animation, there's OpenToons, there's quite a few. But if you look on YouTube, there are so many tutorials to get you started. But unfortunately for animation, if you really want to do this as a career, self-taught is okay up to a point. You have to go and get a qualification, I'm sorry, because we find that self-taught people, you may have taught yourself some really not good habits.
That happens.
Not even realizing that you were, and usually a little bit of structure and the history and the principles. There's so many principles. And then you can see for sure if this is something you want to get into or not, because it's not all glamour. There's many, 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 many nights where you're sitting till 2 a.m. and this thing is not working. And
Sheesh, I can imagine.
yeah. Oh, the frustration. But at least you got a team. You got a team of people who's experiencing it with you.
Yeah.
And it's enormously, it helps you just get ready, because animation is a lonely, you're alone a lot. It's you and the computer, or you and this drawing pad, and you're expressing your ideas. So you have to be comfortable with that as a person with some solitude. If you're not, then I would say seriously think about it, because maybe you're a live action person and not a animation person. So our form of storytelling is it takes long, very long. Yeah, you have to be very disciplined.
Sure. I think, okay, well, I just want to share something before I make this comment. On your point of frustration. So I know that whenever I have to edit a short clip on my phone, like a 2-minute video, and I'm adding music and I'm trying to make it look pretty, I get so frustrated. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I just want to know, we only have 10 minutes left. How are you able to just like work past the frustration and the glitches and things not going according to plan in the process? Because when we watch your work, we're like, oh my gosh, this is fabulous. But I can imagine that the process is just, it can be a bit frustrating. So how are you able to get through all of that? Inka, go for it.
I think I lost Claire there. Yeah, I mean, I think my problems are obviously different to Claire, so I'll just speak to those. And I think, I mean, you have to just really know and expect that problems are part of it. Like, I think that technology does what it does. Sometimes you do exactly the same thing and it does something else, and you're like, okay. And you just have to be patient and you have to figure out what it is this time around. And I think especially for me, I work on really huge events like something like the Red Bull Dance Your Style World Finals in Joburg, where you can put all the right things in place and make sure everything along the chain is there. But then when one link in the chain breaks, you have to just keep problem solving, and you just have to keep calm, and you have to keep going, okay, what else and how do I do this? And you just, because the show has to happen. And I think, something like animation or a movie has a very specific deadline. So that has to be met. Whereas with us, the live thing has to happen. So you both have those walls that you have to come up against, and just have to keep figuring out and just keep coming at it from different things. So I think having people around you that come up with solutions is always really good. Like a brainstorm is good. It's got to be an open, safe space where you go, how do we do this? You find different solutions, different people bring different things and different tools and different experiences. And yeah, when it gets really bad, I don't know, take a breather, go for a walk, and then
it always helps. Walking always helps, I promise you.
But yeah, allow yourself to be frustrated, but don't let it out on anyone. It's not anyone's, your headspace is yours. Be responsible with your headspace. If you're in a team, and figure out how you push yourself through that when you're just being super great, whatever that is, figure out how to get through it, and then become a part of the solution orientated process again, because you have to get through it, and there are ways to get through it, and asking for help and all the things. Yeah, that's the way.
Sure. Thank you for sharing, Inka. Claire, what about you?
I used to be not so good with this before, but one of my jobs was I became a trainer on a cruise ship. So every month we used to get all these different people from all these different nationalities. And I did that for about a year, and that really helped me. It really taught me to, my father's words, come back to me, bite your tongue, because it's going to get your body into trouble. So, and so the control that you have, I mean, as the owner of the company, I find as the company is growing bigger and bigger and bigger, it's happening so quickly. Exactly what Inka said, find the solution, be part of the solution. And if it's not working, if something is not working, there's different levels though, because depending on how close that deadline is, your stress levels they're just all over the show. Yeah. And so I do find that, I would say in the last year, one of my easiest go-tos is just getting up, taking that deep breath, go for a walk, go far away, like literally go outside and go scream or something. That cannot be discounted. But also brainstorming with the people who need to get this done with you. If you see that you can't come up with the solution, it really is providing that safe space for your lead or for one of the people, especially when it comes to the visual development, because that's where we tend to have, because it's so subjective that it's quite difficult for you to see what your visual artist is trying to do and what you had in mind, and now you have to come to this meeting of the minds. The frustration comes in when we didn't explain properly. So I find each time I'm getting better at giving briefs and being more clear about what it is that you wanted, what the outline is, and giving better deadlines. Those impossible deadlines is something that it's also find that I'm becoming better for that, because that used to be a huge gap between what the client wanted and what you wanted, but you're so afraid of losing that job that you will try, and then you're driving the people who are supposed to be helping you. So learning to say no is not always bad. Learning to let go of toxic clients, that was another big breakthrough for us. And the brainstorming with your team, but allowing there to be no wrong answers, just working focusedly to get that part done. So it doesn't always work. And if it doesn't, you have to be able to have your people say, look, we can't get this done in time. And then that's when you have to go and make those phone calls and say, this is not going to happen. It can be uncomfortable, but not frustrating anymore.
Yeah.
Sure. That's so good. And I think that definitely applies to many different industries as well. So thank you for sharing that advice, Claire. So we've got 5 minutes left. Wait, I'm wrong, 3 minutes left. And I just wanted to ask, where do you see the visual art in 10 years from now? Or where would you like to see it? where would you like to see it?
Wait,
Let's
do you
place
mean
it
for
like
us
that.
or for the country as an industry or for the continent?
Let's say for South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Where would you like to see it in 10 years? Inka, go for it.
Oh, wow. I wish, or I hope for people to feel supported in being able to visualize and manifest big projects or small projects, but really feel that there's a structural support, that there is, just everything that they need, that they can call on, that there's an industry that is across the board, whether that's performing arts or, animation or film, that has grown, that is inclusive, that is just respectful, that everyone can draw on and rely on. I think because there are incredible visionary artists, filmmakers, animators. It's absolutely amazing the amount of talent there is in the country and the stories that people have to tell. And I just hope that there'll be that support that can just go far, and technology obviously as well, that there's access to technology for everyone, but also schooling, just big things. I hope coming true.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I really, hoping it comes true as well. Thank you for that, Inka. And Claire?
Okay, my ideal thing, we don't have load shedding anymore. That's like a thing of the past. Gone. Yes, water issues and people's standard of living has increased, right? So with that in mind, then the vision or the whole plan that I've seen, the strategy for the country when it comes to animation, is that the underrepresented provinces, we're talking about the Northwest Province, we're talking about Limpopo, we're talking about Quebec, Eastern Cape, and like at the bottom, between the Eastern Cape and Cape Town, along that areas, that there are these thriving animation studios, only because the platforms that have come to our country are looking for us. And in 5 years from now, they found us and they're supporting us and they're funding our projects based on what we want to show the world, not what they're coming with these ideas of what they Lion King style. But that we are exporting our animations to the world. So in 10 years from now, we already have 3 people, third person winning the Academy Award. So, yeah, and it's possible.
Sure.
Yes.
Very, very possible.
Exactly.
Very possible.
Inka, you're right. We got visionary, amazingly talented people. They just need that one opportunity.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to play this clip 10 years from now and be like, we did it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kat and Claire, for sharing. I've honestly had such an interesting and insightful 1 hour. I've learned so much from the both of you. And I can imagine that everyone tuning in has learned so much. And I'm also just more interested and more curious in doing more research in the visual sphere, because I feel like there's so much to learn about visual storytelling. So thank you so much for spending time with us at the Affluence Human Rights Festival 2023. And we do hope to have you back again just to learn more and share our thoughts as well on what we've gained. With that being said, please enjoy the rest of your evening. And to everyone else tuning in, Affluence Human Rights Festival is live at Dennis Hurley. So do go through there. We are doing a digital arts little thing there. So do come through. And then after that, we're having a poetry live event. So it's,
Okay.
I promise you, Devon is the place to be right now. So if you're watching, please head over to Dennis Hurley. That's where everything is continuing. And Bash just told me that it's free entry. So love and light from myself and Affluence. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening and goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.